FNAF has its highs and lows, and in this video, I'm going to be going through one thing I hate about every single FNAF game, all the way from Five Nights at Freddy's 1 to Security Breach. So with that, let's get straight into the video. FNAF 1. This is the game I had the most trouble on choosing one factor that I hated about it, but I ended up concluding with Freddy's mechanics. Freddy is good in this game. I'm not trying to say that Freddy was done poorly, but overall, the mechanic where he can sneak into your office, if you don't know what you're doing, like a first time player, this may catch you off guard and potentially end multiple runs. This could have been fixed if the phone guy would have said that Freddy, if close to your office, must have the door shut on him. This could make it so the player has a chance on fending off Freddy. Once you understand how to combat Freddy, then it gets a little bit easier, but for first time players, this can be a bit of a problem, and it's one thing that I don't like about FNAF 1. For FNAF 2, it's going to be Toy Bonnie. Now, I'm not saying that Toy Bonnie is a bad character. It's actually the gameplay loop of Toy Bonnie. In FNAF 2, there's multiple sequences where if you get in a blackout, which is pretty much when the animatronic goes into your office and you're forced to put on the mask, when this happens, you get like around 5 to 6 seconds to kind of avoid it and then obviously wind up the music box. And for earlier nights, it's not that bad, but for later nights, characters like Toy Bonnie actually take around 7 to 6 seconds to fully go through their blackout. This isn't really a problem for earlier nights, but as you get later on into the game, the music box becomes faster, and as you can imagine, if Toy Bonnie takes around 7 seconds to go through your office, then there's a high chance that your music box will also run out and the puppet will jump scare you. If you have attempted the Night 7 challenge, then you know what I mean. FNAF 3 has a lot of issues, but the one that I have the most problem with is the cameras and how hard it is to see. I understand that it was for gameplay reasons, because Springtrap is kind of meant to like camouflage in this environment, and this is meant to make it harder for you to pick out where Springtrap is. For experienced FNAF players, it's a little bit easier to figure out where Springtrap is, as obviously you would know the different areas Springtrap can hide in, but for a first time player, it's very hard to kind of see everything, and it overall makes the game a lot less quality. And I get this is kind of the theme of Fazbear Frights, but I think in execution it overall makes the game less enjoyable. FNAF 4 isn't really a gameplay reason, but instead it's kind of the whole game's lore. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this game's lore, but pretty much this game was kind of concluding the whole series to be one big dream, and obviously this was really shocking to the community at the time. This decision would eventually get retconned later on in the series, but at the time it was groundbreaking in a very bad way. And going back to FNAF 4, you can kind of see the original idea of a dream theory being implemented into the game in the 8-bit sections before the nights. You can see how it was heavily taking inspiration from a dream theory, and this is my one complaint with FNAF 4. Playing Sister Location for the first time is very fun. However, after doing so, the game can feel very repetitive, as the nights kind of act the same, and you can say the same for earlier games in the franchise. However, unlike the earlier games, Sister Location is kind of a one and done game, because the nights are kind of set up in set pieces where there would be a primary threat during that night, and with the older games, there would be multiple threats during the nights. And not only that, there would be different encounters you can have with the animatronics, which in Sister Location you have that, however they are more scattered out, and for players that replay this game, you can definitely see that the scary factor kind of diminishes, and overall the game becomes less scary. Springtrap is one of my favorite characters in FNAF. However, what Pizzeria Simulator did to Springtrap is just mind-blowing. He pretty much became a peanut. I know a lot of people have already roasted Scraptrap's design, but in practice, I don't really mind it. However, when you see the animatronic up close in like a model kind of thing, if you see it up close and you fully get to see it in light, the animatronic just looks really bad. In game, it's not as bad because obviously FNAF Pizzeria Simulator isn't really focused on looking at animatronics. It's more focused on sounds, and pretty much Springtrap really just kind of downgraded in this game. With a game with so much animatronics like Ultimate Custom Night does, it made it so the animatronics jump scares are less scarier, and that's my issue with Ultimate Custom Night. I do understand it was a hardware issue because obviously having so many animatronics in the game, you really can't make it so each animatronic has its own unique jump scare, but a lot of the jump scares are kind of just PNGs that kind of flash on the screen, especially Golden Freddy's jump scare, which isn't the worst thing, but overall it makes the game less scary. For Help Wanted, it's not really a gameplay issue, it's kind of the lore and how pretty much the lore became more focused on sci-fi horror. The story of Glitchtrap pretty much boils down to a worker went to one of the old locations, specifically the FNAF 6 pizzeria, found Scraptrap, and magically a chip was in the suit of the animatronic, and they used that chip to put in a game which turned William Afton into a digital like creature. It's really far-fetched. For Security Breach, it's pretty much the game is sometimes unplayable, and I know a lot of people have already said this, and it's really a issue that can completely change the player's experience. And I think the way the game was launched, if you remember, Security Breach when it launched was completely unplayable. With the newest DLC, the game does feel a little bit smoother, and overall the crashing is one of Security Breach's most apparent flaws. On screen here is a video of me playing the new remaster of Granny, and I do scream a lot, so if you like screaming, check that video out, you're gonna enjoy it. And with that, take it easy, goodbye.